like it's our first time doing this. I don't know why I'm making it so difficult, but that's what
Yeah,
I like
well,
to do.
you
I
gotta have
make
all
things.
your I's dotted and your T's crossed, you know?
Oh man, yeah, we're all about efficiency. On Wednesday nights, especially when technology is working with us. So we'll let everybody come in, and here we go. Green check marks just about across the board. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, over on X. It's Wednesday night. What's going on, Broncos country? He is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson, Scott Kennedy on the ones and twos. It is time for MHI. Tom, how we doing? Preseason game number 1 officially in the books.
That's right.
We're almost through the preseason, in the middle of it right now. Joint practices with the Packers. How we feeling about the Broncos? How we feeling today in general?
Well, it's been a long week, but otherwise it's been all right. I mean, talking about the Broncos, there's a lot of positives to really jump on, even though it's preseason. But at the same time, every year it's like you got to look at the positive and hope for the best. But yeah, I saw a lot of things that I really liked in that preseason game. Of course, it's preseason, but yeah, some things to build on, I think.
There was only one thing to like about that preseason game in Indianapolis. Thomas and I will get into that here in a little bit. But before we do, let's say what's up to everybody, including our friends in the stream. David Yonkin starting us off. Good evening to all Bronco family members, Thomas, Luke, DVA, and Scott. Speaking of Dylan Von Arks, head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Read Dylan's latest right now, or it should be up and published shortly. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and please subscribe if you have not done so already. And safe travels to Dylan. I know he's a popular guy, man. He's going to weddings. He's got family gathering, traveling right
He is.
now. So be safe in your travels, Dylan. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple months, my friend. Have a cold pop or two. David Papa Bear, as always, kicking things off for us very, very early. So we want to give him his props. $5 super over on YouTube. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott. Bo QB1, hashtag 12 and 5. Denver Broncos for life. Knicks for 6. I think Zach Wilson will be quarterback 2. Tom, I was very impressed with what I saw from Bo Nix. I think David Papa Bear McGrath was very impressed with Bo Nix. Sean Payton seemed relatively happy about Bo Nix. He ultimately went 15 for 21, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. He did rush the ball 3 times for 17 yards. Initial reaction when you saw Bo Nix finally take his first set of NFL preseason snaps?
I mean, it was a great performance for a rookie in his first preseason game. I mean, I know there's a lot of things, when you look at it and you slow everything down and critique here and there, but for a rookie in his first preseason game and playing it, it wasn't just a bunch of scrubs out there. I mean, there were some decent players out there playing. He did a pretty good job. I don't really have anything to knock him for sure, but it's promising. It's definitely promising, especially when you compare him to the other quarterbacks and how well they did in that game. I think he was, head and shoulders above the other two.
I completely agree. And Sean Payton was asked about Bo Nix's performance today out there in Broncos country on the stump, if you will. Said, quote, decision-making was good. I felt he was comfortable in the pocket. Thought his pass locations were good. The number one thing to do at quarterback is lead your team. And we scored on all 4 offensive possessions. Yeah. Now, Coach did get into a little bit of areas that Bo Nix could improve as the rest of the team. And yes, there were some other areas that Broncos country should definitely be concerned about in there, but some surprise young buck players that are making themselves a name or a roster spot, or at least the argument out there. It looked like Bo Nix fit this Sean Payton offense to me. If just on first glance, initial reaction, I'm like, oh, Bo Nix knows the playbook. That's nice. And it's Sean's playbook. Sean's not having to water things down like he did last year for Russell Wilson. We're not trying to make a hybrid offense between what Aaron Rodgers liked to do and what Russell Wilson liked to do with Nathaniel Hackett. Sean is able to give this rookie the playbook. Last spring, says memorize it out there in Indianapolis at the Combine. Here we go. It just felt right to me. And it didn't feel like the moment was too big for Bo. He looked prepared, Tom. Dare I say it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he was decisive in his decision making. I mean, it was like he processed quick enough for Sean Payton's offense. And that was important because that was the that was the big knock. Russell Wilson didn't process quick enough, and then he ended up getting into running around and doing all those things. In that first preseason game, Bo Nix looked like he was able to process quickly and get the ball out of his hands and made plays. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, scoring 4 times, in the first 4 possessions, it's a big deal.
I'm not used to seeing it. The Broncos fans aren't used to seeing it. I mean, I get it. And when you go back, and I encourage everybody, check out the game stats on NFL GSIS. Look, here's a name we haven't heard of in a while. Jasmine, our friend Jasmine over on YouTube. Got to chat with Jasmine a little bit today. Her and her family are doing well. Very generous. $9.99 super. Thank you so much, Jasmine, saying, hey, guys. And I know Jasmine's excited about Broncos football, as is the rest of Broncos country. But look, that first quarter, when you're looking at the stats, 0. And you're like, oh, that's the Broncos offense. And then you realize Jarrett Stidham was in for those first few series. And underwhelming is an understatement when we're talking about Jarrett Stidham. I even went back into my training camp articles last year, and I was pretty mean to Jarrett Stidham. But it is what it is. 4 for 7, 37 yards and an interception. I know we don't have to necessarily blame him completely for all the picks and the turnovers. We could talk about the fumbled exchange with Alex Forsyth, right? And Bo Nix. But look, there were lots of areas for improvement. I was just happy to see that Bo Nix, the moment wasn't too big for him. He was prepared, and it looked like his team responded to him. It looked like the team actually got a heartbeat when Bo Nix came into the game. Like, okay, we got Jarrett Stidham out of the way. Now it's time to go to work. And speaking of go to work, I don't know if you've ever gone to work looking ridiculous, Tom. Sometimes I go to work looking ridiculous and I work from home. But what was with Jonathan Taylor and that Guardian cap? I was talking to my dad on the phone last night, and he's like, are they going to be able to wear those in the actual games? And I told him, I think so. I think the NFL wants them to experiment with these different levels of protection. But man, I thought that thing was ugly. What'd you think of the Guardian cap and the new look for Jonathan Taylor and the Colts?
Yeah, it seemed weird for sure. But as the more people start to wear them, we'll get used to them. But definitely weird out of the gate for sure. It just didn't seem right, But, if people want to have extra, remember, the Bills guy was a Don Beebe that used to wear the second layer of padding on his helmet. It looked weird as heck, but the guy made it through his career, and he even talks about it, later about how he didn't get as many concussions as other people. So safety wise, fine, but it does look odd. I think they're going to have to improve. If you want the visual appeal, you got to improve that skull cap they're putting over the top of it to make it look a little nicer.
At first, I kind of thought, did Jonathan Taylor lose a bet? Or like, what happened? But no, I mean, like, to each their own. And when it comes to safety, like, we like poking fun at some of these aesthetics, if you will, but whatever works for the man is going to work for him. And speaking of the man, Michael Rinquillo coming at us from Arizona over on Facebook with some generous stars. Good evening, Thomas and Luke on the Mile High Insiders, and go Broncos. Mike, what'd you think of Bo Nix, man? You've been repping that Bo Nix jersey since last April, man. I know you put in the order as soon as the draft was done. It's one of these things, man, where I'm thinking about all of Broncos country, including Mike. You got your Bo Nix jersey. You're out there at camp. You're sweating. You're grinding. And he puts on a performance like that. What's not to love? Phil McLaughlin coming in, speaking of love, over on Facebook. Good evening, Thomas, Luke, and Deacon Scott. If Nix looks good in joint practice and the game on Sunday, will Peyton announce him as the starter for game number 1? Phil, I think there's going to be some gamesmanship in here from Sean Payton. He's already doing it. The cat's out of the bag. At least that's the way I posted this over on X for this show. The rest of the NFL saw Bo Nix. We're gushing over him. Maybe too soon for some people to eat crow, right, on whether or not Bo Nix was a great pick, but he has to be the starter against Seattle. Whether or not Sean Payton's going to announce it within then is another story. We're going to get into that and more, Phil. But before we do, and I will answer your question, we got to say hello and thanks to our friends over at Mint Mobile. Guys, with big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price that you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about those gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plan, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages.
And to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/huddle. That's mintmobile.com/huddle. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/huddle. $45 up front, payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Boom. Our friends over at Mint Mobile has me thinking about Ryan Reynolds, Wolverine Deadpool, baby. I've seen it twice now because
You've seen it?
Twice, baby.
I
I've seen
haven't
it
seen it
twice in
yet.
2 different
Yeah, we were going to go this weekend, but changed our plans. We're maybe going to go tomorrow and watch it. So
oh
I'm
man,
excited.
you're gonna be so happy, man. It was, I complain constantly that movies just aren't good anymore when you go to the theater, and the experience has completely changed. This one lived up to the hype. I was very happy. There are things I wish would different, but that's me in every movie. But man, I was so happy to just put the phone away, go and be entertained. I would check that out. But no, to get back to Phil's question a little bit and trying to figure out why doesn't Sean Payton just come out and say it? Bo Nix is our guy. He's QB1. We're not going to play all these silly little games with the Packers in town on Sunday night, preseason game number 2. Now, I know there's a joint practice with the Packers on Friday. I'm real curious who takes the first team reps on Friday as opposed to who starts on Sunday.
To me, it's got to be Bo Nix taking the first team reps out of the gate. He's got to be the first one on the field in the next preseason game. He earned that with his play last weekend. I mean, he really did. He outplayed Stidham, no problem. Obviously, there's differences about when you come in and you're playing the first team versus some of the second team's player, whatever. He earned the right. He should do that. Now, whether or not Sean Payton should name him the starter right now, I don't really care. But everyone's going to know who the starter is pretty soon when he starts being the first one on the field and playing with the first team.
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, and Tom too, but when do they have to officially have the complete injury report and all their ducks in a row on game week? I feel like it's Wednesday or Thursday. You can't really pull the wool over somebody's eyes in terms of NFL gamesmanship that late in the week. Now, you could wait to announce who's going to start, right? But I don't know why you would. It's week 1. He's a rookie. I mean, first-round draft pick, and I got to start to wonder at what point is all the rookie hazing and everything from Jarrett Stidham going to get old with Bo Nix? I mean, I tweeted out there at Luke Patterson LP last week. I was hearing rumblings. Remember, I'm asking, Bo Nix seems a little bit like Sean Payton at the mic. Remember me saying that last week? I feel like sometimes he has a little bit of vinegar to him. I think he can be very dressed up and be that quarterback that you need to on the camera, but he had a little bit of an attitude. Well, I started digging into that, and it sounded like Jarrett Stidham and some other Broncos players are cutting up, having the time of their lives over at camp, and Bo Nix is pissed off about that, saying, I'm here to work. I'm ready to go. We've got nothing to joke about. Let's get going. Kind of made me think last week, during the telecast, and Ryan Harris and Steve Levy are saying, the rookies still have to carry the shoulder pads. You're Bo Nix. How much longer are you going to carry Jarrett Stidham's freaking shoulder pads? I get that there's a time and a place for these sort of things. I get that there's a little bit of a rite of passage, but for crying out loud, when you're the man, you're the man. Your team knows you're the man. You don't have to say it. But I would be done carrying Jarrett Stidham's shoulder pads.
Yeah, Stidham to me hasn't earned the right to do any hazing of any rookie quarterback. I mean, he's been in the NFL for a few years, but he hasn't earned anything. I mean, he's been a mediocre quarterback. So if I was Bo Nix, I would be a little pissed off too. But you're right. He does carry himself pretty well. I think he's embraced this sort of, I'm the next face of the Broncos. Now, his play has to back that up. He has to be a good football player. But so far, he's done the right things in my mind as far as being the face of the franchise going forward. Again, wins have to start coming in. He has to start proving it on the field in real, non-preseason games. But so far, I've been impressed with how he carries himself.
Boom. Speaking of impressed, our guy Mike E, always impressing us here over on YouTube, repping MHI. Very generous $10 super. Thank you very much, Mike. Hey, Thomas, Luke, and Scott, what's up, Broncos country? I am fired up about 2024. Just seeing the difference in the flow of the offense with all 3 quarterbacks was amazing. I think Bo was Sean's guy all along. Now let's keep this up for just a sec, Mike, because that last sentence kind of gave me goosebumps for a couple different reasons. Yeah, it looked different. That's for sure. Zach Wilson didn't look too bad out there. I'm not going to say 10 for 13, 117 yards, a lot better than Jarrett Stidham. But obviously there was some big news in the NFL today. A few different stories that we'll get to, but Vikings first round rookie quarterback JJ McCarthy is out with a torn meniscus. He will miss the entire 2024 season. Tom, you and Broncos country and MHI remembers that was my guy. That was my guy coming into this draft. And turns out Bo Nix is Sean Payton's guy. Sean's got to be feeling pretty good and at least wondering, all teams kind of wonder when these injuries happen, are we managing our starters the right way in preseason? Bo needs all the reps he can get. Injury aside from a different quarterback on another team, I mean, you can't handle Bo Nix with these, I'm afraid you're going to get hurt, so let's not play you in preseason kind of vibes.
Well, and that's just the thing when it comes to draft bust. You never know who's going to be injured, whether they have potential or talented. They get injured and, kind of stunts their growth. They get injured again, and then they're a bust. So you have to weigh it, but you can't play scared. You can't go into coaching scared. You've got to go do what you think is right for the team. That's putting Bo Nix out on the field, getting him those reps and moving along. What I did, I know everybody's talking about quarterbacks, and Mike, I get it. Everybody's excited about Bo Nix. I was excited about how well the running game performed for the team, because last year it was pathetic. That was a huge boost. And I know Bo Nix threw the ball well, made some plays, but if you get that running game going the way it was, like in the regular season, the way it was in the preseason, that's going to equal some wins that you're not expecting. And that's what really got me kind of excited. It seemed like it was rolling.
Man, it was rolling. In the offense, you had some different players step up. On defense, you had some different players step up. We're going to talk about that in the show. Maybe some under the radar prospects. We've got risers and fallers up over at milehighhuddle.com. I would encourage everybody to go read that. Our very own Keith Cummings also has an article up right now talking about the level of Bo Nix support that he's getting from in the locker room. It's not to say there's going to be like a coup or anything like that. Jarrett Stidham's going to get overthrown by the team. No. Jarrett Stidham got overthrown by Bo Nix all summer. All right. And he's still doing it today. You could go out there on X, on social media, and you're seeing everybody post these awesome videos of Bo Nix. And folks, I get it. It's training camp. It's not the real deal. But when you see those kind of things in camp and practice every day, and then you see it in the preseason game, man, check off those two boxes. 2 out of 3. We're waiting for the real thing now. And it's right around the corner. Talk to me about how you're feeling about joint practices on Friday. You're seeing a lot of fights, if you will. You see these fights, and I use the fighting term kind of oddly with quotations, right? Because they're not really fights. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're just messy. You see social media videos out there today, Tom. I don't know if you caught this. A Dallas Cowboy defender, a defensive lineman, rushed through the Los Angeles Rams offensive line and knocked the trainer right on his butt. And like they kind of get together as like they want to brawl. And I'm like, good Lord. You hear about the Patriots and their head coach Mayo coming out saying, if you start fighting, then I'm going to start you in every preseason game. How does Sean Payton attack this joint practice with the Packers? Are you expecting there to be some fights? What do you think?
Well, you would hope that the coach has instilled his leadership onto the team, and there's going to be fewer fights than what happens if the leader doesn't have control of the team, yada yada. But the tempers are going to flare. There's no doubt about it. You've been going against your own team for so long, banging heads. It's time to take some aggression out on the other team. So it can happen. You'll probably see a scuffle, maybe 2. But the thing about these joint practices that I think is better than actual preseason game is it doesn't have to be kind of dumbed down, or doesn't have to be secretive because nobody's watching. You're just out there playing. You can implement things that maybe you wouldn't implement, in a preseason game. So there's more things that you can kind of judge and view in these joint practices. It's another team. It's not like it's not the familiar face. There are going to be differences. There's going to be different formations, different ways of handling players that you haven't seen rush the passer before. So to me, these joint practices are a valuable tool when you're evaluating who's going to make this team and evaluating your offense and defense, special teams, all that.
Apparently, there's some poor evaluations continuing to come in on Bo Nix, right? Norman's coming in here over on YouTube. Appreciate the support, Norm. Nick Wright said Bo Nix was trash and looks scared. Okay. I mean, like, there's some shock value in some of these things that on some of these shows, and you got to kind of understand that. And there's also, folks that are entitled to their opinion too. I didn't have Bo Nix completely high on my board, just completely honest. Full transparency, he was not up there, man. He was on the bottom of the list. But I'm excited to give this young man a chance. And I think all things considered, what we're seeing in camp, what we're seeing in preseason, you couldn't ask for a much better start. The team seems to be getting to know him. His coach seems to like what he's doing. I think he's settling in. He seems like a businessman to me, Bo Nix. Like, he is all business. And I think that can rub some people the wrong way, but I just compare two different human beings and two different quarterbacks, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. What's happening in Denver and what's happening in Chicago. And I think Caleb Williams is the type of player and man that needs to have cameras on me. And Bo Nix would rather, let's get this work done. I don't care who's watching. I don't care how they feel about it. Let's just go do this. And then we can do the camera thing. It could work both ways. We've seen that in the NFL. You have quarterback darlings that can't get enough of the limelight, and then you've got punks that fizzle out. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is going to fizzle out. I don't really like Caleb Williams as a quarterback. I don't agree with everything he does off the field either. Doesn't mean he won't have success in the league. How do you compare some of these rookie quarterbacks right now, Tom? Because right now people are kind of wondering the what if, specifically the Nick Wrights of the world. What if the Broncos were able to get JJ McCarthy? Would he have gotten injured today in Denver, or should they have traded up to go get Drake May or traded back to get, Penix Jr.? Like, all these what if scenarios are going to continue to happen throughout the rookie campaign for Bo Nix.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, it's hard to listen to someone like Nick Wright or somebody who clearly hasn't. They're
Chiefs fan.
They're not believing their own eyes, or they're just saying something that everybody else is looking at, being like, "What are you even looking at?" Right? I mean, that's just disingenuous. So I don't even listen to him. I don't care what he really has to say, because he has a way of doing things that isn't real. It's not realistic. But anyway, as far as judging them against other quarterbacks, I mean, the injury to JJ McCarthy, that was the comparison, because it really came down to, are the Broncos going to trade up and get JJ McCarthy? Are they going to stay back and get Bo Nix? Yeah. And right now, Bo Nix is still on the field. JJ McCarthy isn't. And now it's not his fault. I mean, people get injured. But again, like I said, you cannot predict injuries all the time. And that is probably one of the biggest reason NFL players become busts, is because they were injured before they can fulfill their potential. So if Bo Nix can stay on the field and continue to grow, he's going to be that much farther ahead. Now, whether he's ahead of Caleb Williams or Michael Penix or Jaden Daniels or whatever, I have no idea. I mean, I want to see him out there on the real deal on NFL field, regular season, and see how they perform before I can make that decision. But so far, he's a rookie quarterback. You can nitpick his game, but he went out there and performed. He had performed very well for a rookie in a first preseason game.
He balled out, as the kids would say, right? Or he is him, or whatever that silly nonsense is that these kids say these days. Phil McLaughlin coming in. I love where Phil's head's at, man. Phil's always trying to think 2 steps ahead, and I love it. If Bo Nix has a good game this week, do the Broncos sit him for the 3rd preseason game and let Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson battle for QB2? I love where your head's at, Phil, because you've been listening to this show for long enough to know that has always been part of our plan here on MHI. Jarrett Stidham was always going to start in Indy. Bo Nix was always going to start here in Denver in his Denver preseason debut. And then Zach Wilson's going to get the nod in game 3 against the Cardinals. Look, I don't know if Sean Payton's going to let Bo Nix off scot-free with not getting any reps in the 3rd game. I think he wants Bo to get as many live rounds, if you will, in NFL action. Man, how do I feel about that? I guess I'd be a little nervous with the JJ McCarthy thing, and it's totally unrelated. As Tom said, you have no control over these sorts of things, but I don't know, bad juju, bad karma. I don't know what you call it. I'm not superstitious, Phil. I'm kind of stitious. So I would be hesitant in trotting Bo Nix out there in week 3. What do you think, Tom?
I think if Bo Nix starts this week, which I think he's earned the right, he'll go out there, start. He might come in for a couple series in that third preseason game. But really, if Bo Nix is the starter, if everyone can see the writing on the wall, it's Stidham's is the number 2 guy, and Wilson's either traded or the number 3 guy. You're not going to have Zach Wilson sit behind Bo Nix and be his mentor and his second guy who can go to. Zach Wilson's not that guy. He's barely able to play quarterback as a high round draft pick as it is. I just don't see it. I just don't think that that's something that Sean Payton will sign up for. It's Bo Nix starting. Stidham is the second guy. There's no battle for number 2, if that's how it plays out.
The weird thing about, well, I know, and one thing you forgot, Zach Wilson can't stay away from anybody's mother. I haven't heard any issues here in Denver, but I'm just assuming. Here's the interesting thing when you look at all 3 quarterbacks. I think Jarrett Stidham obviously has the experience right now. That's by default. But when you look at Jarrett Stidham's career, I mean, 16 games, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 1,400 yards, completion percentage right around 60%. I mean, okay, you've played a full season in like 5 years, I guess, right? Or 4 years or whatever it is. So he's got the experience. The other 2 have the talent. You can't tell me Zach Wilson doesn't have some talent, but talent doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find success as a starting quarterback or hell, even a backup quarterback. I think Bo Nix, maybe he's the odd mix between them where he's got all that college experience and he can spit it out on the grease board, but then he also has some of the talent like a Zach Wilson. I don't know. It's interesting when you start to look at all 3 of them, Phil, but I'm curious about Zach. Tom, I don't know if it's because I can't stand Jarrett Stidham. I don't know if because he's the only other guy we have left. I mean, dare I say, I almost want to see a 4th quarterback. Like, do we have anybody else out there? I mean, like, I think Zach Wilson, he's very athletic. You're going to see him on the move. You're going to see him throw across his body. It's probably going to be for an interception, but he has that arm strength. He's got that quarterback arrogance, if you will. I want to know what rehab looks like with Zach Wilson and Sean Payton, because we don't see Sean rehabbing a lot of quarterbacks, just like we haven't seen him draft a lot of first-round quarterbacks ever until Bo Nix, right? So it's kind of uncharted territory with Bo Nix and Zach Wilson. For the curiosity factor alone, I almost want to see Zach play a lot against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday.
I'm a little different. I mean, from my perspective, Zach Wilson, you think about Sean Payton and what he wants in his offense, right? It wasn't Russell Wilson. It really wasn't Jameis Winston or anybody, it's a Drew Brees type quick decision maker. You throw the ball, you get it out of your hands, you make those quick passes. It's all about processing. Zach Wilson, if he was the guy that you had to bring in, you're going to have to take your offense and change it to kind of fit him. He's not a quick processor. He's a terrible decision maker. He's got a lot of talent and he makes some wow throws, but he's not the guy, right? He's not that guy for Sean Payton's offense. That's why I think he's the odd man out. Stidham may not be uber talented, but he fits what Sean Payton wants more to be behind Bo Nix, who's the future, who does have those qualities. And like you said, the talent. Zach Wilson's got the talent, but he'd be a project to try. It would be like, oh, we're stuck. We have to throw Zach Wilson in. Let's make do. That's the way I see it. So whether you want to rehab him or whatever, it's not worth the time. That's why I think he's the odd man out. He just is.
And you could be right, but I think there's an argument on both sides, and I like it because my favorite thing that you said there in your pushback is the decision making, because you were spot on. The decision making from Zach Wilson is horrible, like on or off the field, right? Like, just don't do that. But it's just one of these things where I put myself in the huddle, and let's say, God forbid, knock on some wood, Bo Nix is out of the game for whatever reason. Maybe it's just a comms issue, radio check, right? I mean, you need to swap helmets real quick. One snap. damn it, I kind of want Zach Wilson to be coming into my huddle instead of Jarrett Stidham. I mean, like on the field, I almost want that athleticism as opposed to just being a boring, dull slappy. And that's
Yeah,
where, however, do you want to get a fumble? Do you want an interception? I mean, like these are some other things that you have to ask yourself. And Mikey's circling right back around over on YouTube. Sorry, I missed you, Scott. My guy Blake Watson's a stud. And yes, he is, Tom. What did you make of, what was it, like a 33-yard catch and run from Zach
yeah.
Wilson, your guy, Zach Wilson, speaking of the devil, to Blake Watson? I mean, this young man is making an intriguing case out of Memphis.
Yeah. Well, I talked about him for a long time. He was kind of sidelined to injury, but I said he was like a Jaleel McLaughlin type, but thicker, a little more able to withstand the durability, maybe a little bit better in pass protection, which we don't know for sure yet. We haven't seen him. That's why I thought he had a chance.
Sproles-esque, maybe?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sproles was small but thick, right? He had the ability to really withstand that punishment in the NFL, even though he was a smaller guy. Stidham is, McLaughlin's
Blake Watson.
a little thinner. Watson's a little thicker. The only thing I did not like about is his fumble, right? He came out, he fumbled. It was recovered by the offense. The offensive line recovered it, but you got ball security. If you cannot, if you have fumble problems, you're not going to be out on the field. McLaughlin didn't have that problem. So I do like Blake Watson. I think it's going to be going down to the wire. He may end up being a kind of a development guy in the practice squad, possibly. But yeah, he's just a little bit behind because of the injury. He's got a lot of catching up to do. I like him though. I think he's got something a little bit more to offer all around in an all-around game than McLaughlin. Although I love McLaughlin. I mean, I've talked about him all the time. Love his story, love his try, his work ethic, all of that.
Yeah.
There just might be a better all-around game in Watson, but that time will tell.
I completely agree with you. And I think what you're trying to say, everyone in Broncos country, what they're trying to say is Samaje Perine, get the hell out of the way because the rest of the running backs have got this. And whether it be Estime, whether it be Blake Watson, Tyler Beatty, I mean, like you've got some options now in your backfield, at least in the preseason, right? Nobody's saying that we're gonna have a 3-headed monster coming out of Denver. No, I'm not going there quite yet. But no, it was good to see some young guys play particularly well. It sounds like Lucas Kroll survived a scary injury, maybe. I don't know. Mixed reports. It sounded like he was back out there at camp today. Sounded like the MRI went okay. You love to see that. You wonder what's going to happen with Timmy Pats, right? 1 target, 1 reception for 14 yards in the game last week. Josh Reynolds, man, my guy, Bo Nix's guy, he's been catching everything out there at training camp. Could not haul down the 6 in the end zone, and that's the good old-fashioned honey hole. And Mike Pritchard taught me that. CU zone, right? Mike Pritchard taught me that years ago, and it's one of the most difficult throws, he told me, that you can possibly make as a quarterback. If Josh Reynolds goes up and uses those man hands, and he's got some big hands, that's a touchdown, baby. So you look at it, I mean, it would have been 2 touchdowns for Bo Nix, and I know it's just stats and fantasy football's coming up right around the corner, but it was nice to see some good things from guys that we don't normally talk about. One of those guys I couldn't write down enough in my notes during film study, Malcolm Roach, Tom. I didn't see that type of efficiency coming. I get it's just preseason game number 1, but to be an undersized defensive tackle and be a menace in the middle of that offensive line, to be stuffing the run, to be getting just a little bit of pressure on the passer. I'm very happy with Malcolm Roach and Jonah Ellis. Speaking of rookies, coming off of the edge, man. He had 9 pass rushing snaps, 4 pressures, and a sack. I mean, Vance Joseph's defense needs all the help they can get. It was nice to see 1, Jonah Ellis, and 2, Melvin Roach get in the mix.
Yeah, and you got to have some of those young guys or the free agent pickups that you weren't expecting to be, big time pickups to step forward. So you got 2 of them right there, Malcolm Roach, who is necessary to shore up that run defense, hopefully, and really make a splash. But yeah, Jonah Ellis is one of those guys that he could be a surprise, that you don't expect, and then all of a sudden, whoa, Jonah Ellis really made a step forward, and that's what you got to look for. And that's what the Broncos need. Like I've been saying, they need to have these players who were okay that need to take that big step forward. And I know Jonah Ellis is a rookie, but it's an unknown taking a step forward. So they need those players. They need those players to step forward for this season and for the future.
100%. And you look at how about Devon Bailey, another receiver that we're really curious about. I know he wasn't as productive as he has been in training camp and preseason game number 1, 3 targets, 1 reception, just 8 yards, but man, he's going to make an interesting case for himself. It's nice to see some of these names that we're not super familiar with on a NFL 17 game regular season basis come up in the preseason. It's nice that we talked about that last week on MHI. Start to look for some other areas that you normally wouldn't. And the preseason offers that opportunity. Phil coming back in. Thanks so much, Phil, over on Facebook. Guys, just my opinion. I think we save $5 million and let Jarrett Stidham go. If either of these quarterbacks have to come in because Nix is hurt, we're not going anywhere. So save the money and let Wilson play. He has more NFL experience than Stidham, even though it wasn't great. Phil, that's an interesting and that's certainly a bold take. I don't want to just cut Jarrett Stidham. I think that you've invested a lot of time into him. You have invested some money into Jarrett Stidham too. I can remember complaining on these airwaves, Tom, what Jarrett Stidham got paid when he got paid. Now that looks like peanuts compared to the quarterback market that's always going up, up, and up. I wouldn't cut Stidham. Would you?
Why would you cut Stidham? I mean, if you think about it, it's $5 million this year. You're not saving money for anything later, right? I mean, the money doesn't really matter at this point, unless you really want to go bring somebody else in and you need the money. They don't really need it. So the money that they're paying him this season doesn't really matter. Now, here's the thing. You're right. Zach Wilson could come in and catch fire and win you a game, but he can also lose you a game. That's the problem with having a backup who is unpredictable. Stidham is predictable. If Bo Nix goes down, Stidham could come in. If he only goes down for a couple of games, say, if he's lost for the season's over. But if Stidham can come in and be Mr. Reliable, maybe keep you in the mix until Bo Nix comes back. Wilson's it's a loose cannon. I mean, he can win you a game, lose you a game, no problem. So would you rather have your second quarterback to come on the field to be a steady guy who can kind of get you by, which is what most backup quarterbacks are, or someone who is unpredictable, who doesn't really fit in this offense at this point in his career?
Well, and listen, Sean's not going to do that, Phil. Maybe it's what you would do, but Sean's certainly not going to do it. We don't know what Sean's going to do. I don't think Sean knows what Sean's going to do. Did you foresee Sean trading for Zach Wilson before the draft? I didn't. That was weird, right?
Yeah,
but that was weird. Like, I don't know if that was to try to throw people off. I don't know if that was an insurance policy. I don't know. Curiosity, a favor. I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. But it's a totally different quarterback room with the exception of Jarrett Stidham. Now, he's your steady Eddie. He's hopefully he's a check down Charlie to me. I don't see a lot from Jarrett Stidham out there. It drives me crazy. I think there are wasted reps during the joint practices if Jarrett Stidham is taking the ones. I think they're wasted reps on Sunday against the Packers if he's taking the ones. I just don't see the need. The team knows. The media knows, the NFL knows, the opposition knows it's going to be Bo Nix. We know that because we just saw his success. I know it was just one preseason game. I'm not out there saying, oh, yeah, the gold jacket, baby. Let's get it ready for Bo. No, not at all. But in terms of who's going to start in Seattle in just a few weeks, yeah, it's got to be Bo Nix. Anything else is, just to quote Vic Fangio, a silly little game that we're playing. And I don't know if it's gamesmanship. I don't know if it's you're trying to keep all your quarterbacks happy. I don't know if you're trying to keep your message as a whole of this is a competition until the end of camp going. I don't know what it is, but we're all bracing ourselves for Bo Nix to start regular season game number 1. Barring injury, I would be shocked if Jarrett Stidham was the starter in Seattle.
The only way it wouldn't be is if Bo Nix started this weekend and was terrible. Like, he went out and just
forgot how to play football, forgot how to walk, forgot how to breathe.
Exactly. If he comes out and gets the start and he plays pretty well for a rookie in preseason, everybody knows he's going to be the guy. That's just the way it is. And the number 2 is a battle, like I said, battle between who do you want to be that kind of mentor because that's what the second guy should be, is a mentor to your first string quarterback who can also come in and keep the offense going if need be. Because everybody knows if the starter goes down, pretty much the season's over. If
But
it's a long injury.
how much of a mentor is Jarrett Stidham if he's just there to crack jokes and have Bo Nix carry his helmet and shoulder pads? Like, I get it. It was just one day. It was just one thing that I heard, and who knows? Maybe who I heard it from is completely full of you know what per source. But it's one of these things where Jarrett Stidham, man, like, okay, like, yeah, you've been in the NFL for a minute. Fantastic, since 2019. What have you done to earn the right to put a first round rookie quarterback down day after day? And at a certain point, you know, every man, woman, you got to figure out where your line is. And I'm not saying that Bo's responding bad. I'm not saying that there's any hostility. I'm just looking at it from a different perspective of, you know, how much are we really on the same page? Are you truly trying to help me, or are you looking out for you? Because everybody needs to look out for themselves. This is the NFL. Bo Nix is going to be here longer than Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham would be a fool to not recognize that. I don't think he thinks I'm going to prove everybody that Bo isn't the guy and I'm going to have a career resurgence. No, he's making himself hopefully some dollars to be a serviceable backup, a la the McCowns, a la the Fitzmagics, a la the Tim Couches of the world, right? I think you try to do that thing to have longevity and a successful career. I look at it, if I'm Bo Nix and, you know, this guy that's supposed to be my mentor is cracking wise all the time, and he's always got something funky to say about me in the press conference, about my money, about me being a rookie, and then he's reminding me to carry the shoulder pad. At a certain point, it's on. And you're going to carry your own damn shoulder pads, and you may be carrying mine. You know why? Because I'm the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos, and I was handpicked by one Sean Payton. The same Sean Payton who has his own line of shoes, his own Jordans. You don't think there's an arrogance to Sean Payton? People can't stand him because he's so damn arrogant. At a certain point, Bo Nix needs to put his foot down and say, you know what? I'm the starter of this team. Everybody's known it all summer. I'm the guy. And if you're not on my page, there you go.
Yeah, and I feel bad defending Jarrett Stidham because I did not like the move when it happened, and I was like, they need to go out and find somebody else to be this backup to the rookie quarterback. You remember me talking about it. I was even going like, why not take a shot at Tannehill, somebody that has been around for a while who could really mentor this guy? But they're stuck with Stidham. But the problem is I'm pulling for Stidham over Zach Wilson, who is even worse when it comes to playing football in my mind. So it really pains me to be sitting here trying to defend Jarrett Stidham. So you're right, though. He has no right to be where he is, talking the way he's talking about Bo Nix. And you're right. At some point, it's going to have to end. If it doesn't, then Sean Payton's going to have to make a decision about his hand-picked backup quarterback for sure. But once the games start going and the things will be probably a little bit different, but it does seem weird. It does seem weird that Stidham has acted that way when he hasn't really done much.
No, and we all know that guy. And I don't know Jarrett. Everything I hear about Jarrett Stidham, he's a very nice guy. He's nice to he's a great teammate guy. He's good to the media. He's good in his community. He's a good guy. So it's not like he's a bad dude and it's easy for me to just rail on him. But it is what it is, man. It's just we've all worked with that one coworker and we've been the new guy or new gal, and they're just kind of scoffing at you because you're the new guy. And I'm getting some pushback in the chat here, and I totally get it from Todd and E-Love that, look, man, Luke, chill out, man. Nothing to get too flustered over. It's just a tradition, just carrying a couple shoulder pads, and you're right. And no, I don't have a Bo Nix jersey. I haven't bought one. The jury's out. My wife's still mad at me for buying the Russell Wilson jersey 2 years ago. So my ability to buy jerseys has been hindered a little bit. Here's the thing. I just don't know what message it's sending in the locker room to just roll out Jarrett Stidham over and over when we all know it's Bo. We all know it's Bo. Who are you doing that for? Are you doing it for Jarrett Stidham? Are you doing it for Bo? Are you doing it for the team? Are you the locker room? Are you doing it for yourself? Because you said, damn it, it's a training camp is on. And the last day of training camp, we will let you know the starting depth chart. Well, I don't think so. Sean's going to keep that up his sleeve for a while too. I just look at it like this, and this is to my guys, Todd and E-Love. I appreciate you guys so much for joining us on MHI. Rookie hazing is a tradition in the NFL. You know what another tradition is in the NFL? The Broncos losing football games and being the laughing stock of the freaking league. And if it takes a rookie to come in here and get sideways with a disgruntled incumbent, then damn it, let's do that. Let's see something different. Let's try something different. Hell, it's the whole reason I wanted Sean Payton here in the first place. At least he's not a yes man. You could say that about him. He's going to go out on his own terms, whether that's going to be success or epic failure remains to be seen. So far, not good enough. Losing season, Sean. Nice little winning streak in there. Whoop-de-doo. You're here to get this team to the playoffs and ultimately hoist a trophy. So while I get rookie hazing's a tradition, I get that. Give him a goofy haircut if you want to do that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me on my soapbox, Tom, but I just like you, man. I can't figure out what Jarrett Stidham's done in this league to continue to earn first team reps or to continue to act kind of immature about his handling or his business relationship with Bo Nix.
Yeah. Well, and last year it wasn't that big of an improvement. I mean, we just keep talking about Jarrett Stidham being an okay quarterback who's destined to be a backup for the rest of his career. I don't understand why I understand why everybody's like, okay, Zach Wilson, he's got this potential, he seems like he has something other than he had two of the worst quarterbacking seasons in the history of the NFL and another one that was pretty dang bad as well.
But Tom, he grew out his hair like us now. He's got that strength. He's like one of us. He's one of the boys.
It doesn't make me a better quarterback.
I don't know about that.
I get why people like Zach Wilson, though. I mean, I understand he's got potential. They see it, he's got flash. He's got this big arm. He can make, run around, make plays, terrible decision maker. So I understand why it's like, but Jarrett Stidham, to me, it's like so boring on top of the fact that he's not very good. Yeah. I think both of them, Zach Wilson and Stidham, are the wrong people to have on this team for a rookie quarterback like Bo Nix. Somebody else should have been brought in a long time ago, but we are stuck with what we have, right? The Broncos have these two backup quarterbacks that they're fighting for the number 2. When it all boils down to it, it's probably Stidham.
Boom. And Jay Nice coming in here tying a big red bow on the Stidham. Why are we talking about Jarrett Stidham? Let's move on.
I can't believe I'm talking about him.
That's our point, Jay. That's our point. We don't want to be, but look, we're probably gonna. I mean, the odds, and I wonder about this, Tom. Maybe you would know. Maybe you can run it in your statistics. I know that's something that you take a lot of pride in and have a lot of algorithms rather. What's the average starting game count for quarterbacks? I mean, like the odds that a quarterback are going to finish from start to end are very low. We know that, but I wonder how many quarterbacks teams on average go through per season. I mean, rules have been changed. I know 2020 was a funky year, but rules have been changed because of it. It's going to be interesting when you ultimately look at Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix, because we know that Bo Nix, we know what his trajectory is, and that's to start. Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, maybe they're along for the ride. I don't know. Maybe more injuries happen, and Zach Wilson looks really good against Green Bay on Sunday and in joint practices, and other teams start calling due to injuries. Hey, we might trade for Zach, and then maybe you could get something back. Maybe you pick up a third quarterback. It's hard to say. The Packers are in town coming up, at least, right? I don't know if they're in town just quite yet. Friday, they're going to have a joint practice over at Broncos HQ ahead of their Sunday game in Denver. Sounds like a big part of the news this week, Tom, over in Broncos land, if you will. All the new upgrades and additions to the stadium just keep on coming from the Walton Penner ownership group. I've sunk over $100 million the past couple seasons into the stadium experience. Stadium experience isn't going to matter much unless you're winning football games, or are people just going to be happy to be there spending their hard-earned dollars on what they hope to be their franchise QB.
Yeah, and that's what Bo Nix brings, right? It's the potential of something great. I mean, that's why people are going to be in the seats. Now, if they lose a bunch of games, it doesn't matter how much you spend. But if Bo Nix can be a semblance of the future, right? I mean, I don't expect him to go out and have the best rookie season of all time or anything like that. But if he has a decent season, they win some games, there's potential for this team to take the next step the following year, you're going to have butts in the seats. And that's what it's all about. And that's why Bo Nix is the starter over Jarrett Stidham, because the way he looked in the first preseason game, he has
Mm.
the ability to play in this game, right? Now, whether it's sustained and it translates into a franchise quarterback, that's yet to be seen. But what we've seen is he can go out there and compete, and he's going to be the one that at least for this season gets people to come watch.
That's why you had to draft him. Like I would have been so upset and just distraught if they didn't get a first round quarterback. Broncos, they need to do something to keep the people coming back, and just the same old thing of let's trade and let's sign one and hope it works. No, we need to draft one. Let's give that a shot. Casey Nickel coming in, a $10 super over on YouTube. Thank you very much for the support on MHI. Ordered the jerseys for the wife and I, and the kids have their new gear coming. Broncos country, let's get loud, let's get excited, and be ready to hear Knicks 4-6. Let's go. Man, Casey, you're getting me fired up. The goosebumps going, man. Broncos country's ready. They're ready for a new chapter, a new era. They're literally getting that. It's Sean Payton's second year. The Russell Wilson year, we knew what that was going to be heading into the season. Is just kind of a tryout, a feeler. But you got new jerseys, you got new stadium upgrades, you've got a new roster, a new first-round rookie quarterback. There are a lot of reasons for Broncos country to be buying their new gear, to be buying tickets, to come tailgate with us at the MHH meet and greet. There are a lot of excited fans, and I'm really happy to see Casey and his family pumped for the season because everybody's back in school right now too, right? Kids are back at school. Fall's right around the corner. You know what I miss seeing in the Mile High City? I miss seeing Broncos orange on Fridays. I miss, dropping my kid off at school and her being the only one in a Broncos jersey saying, Dad, I need to put my hoodie on over this. Like these are the kinds of things we need to get away from because the Broncos have just been horrible for so long. I know it's preseason game number 1. They won 34-30. When's the last time you've seen the Broncos actually have an efficient offense? When's the last time you've seen the Broncos win a game on the road? I mean, some of these things, they're not huge in the grand scheme of things, but they're enough to get Casey and his family excited. They're enough to get me ready to go. They're enough to have me yelling at Jarrett Stidham into the microphone every Wednesday night. I mean, I'm excited too, Tom.
Yeah, well, you should be. And I think the last time we were talking about the old guard and how we're kind of getting rid of the old guard. And I went back and I looked. There's 4 players left from all those losing seasons. So the transition from that kind of old to new, you got a new quarterback, a new coach, you got a kind of a new roster. Things are starting to feel like change. And that's what excites people. Got to go win for sure. But that change is exciting. And the promise of Bo Nix from the first preseason game, I mean, again, you can nitpick his game. You can go look at his footwork. You can go look at different things. But he went out and performed, and that's what mattered. And so there's reason to be excited in Broncos country because changes happened, and you have a quarterback that looks like he could develop into the guy. So why not buy the jersey? Why not go have fun? See what happens. By midseason, if they're terrible, then, you make a different decision. But who knows? Maybe by midseason, it's exciting and fun to go to the Broncos games.
Well, and who knows? Maybe by this time next year, Bo Nix will launch his own cologne or perfume. I don't know if you saw this. It's made headlines. Like I watch the news all the time. And that's one of the reasons we need to lean into this football thing, this Broncos thing. The world's tough right now, folks. So let's all get behind these Broncos and unite there. We're united in orange. Let's go. Let's put our heart and souls into this season. We're going to be doing that here in MHH for this 2024 year. It's going to be really special. Titans quarterback Will Levis, Tom, released a new cologne. I'm trying to figure out if this is like a satire thing or if it's real. It's mayonnaise flavored or scented because if you remember, it was Will Levis who's like, I did mayonnaise in my coffee a couple of years ago. And everybody's like, mayonnaise in the coffee? Is this a clickbait thing? Are you trying to gaslight us? What are you trying to do, Will Levis? What are the odds Bo Nix has his own condiment cologne by the end of next season?
I hope 0. I remember when Burger King came out with Flame, and it smelled like flame broiled burgers. And
I did not know they came out with.
It was 15 years ago, so it was. I should have bought some just for just to have for,
The shock value alone in history.
Exactly.
You could add a piece of history with the king.
Exactly.
Tom.
I kick myself for not doing it, but yeah, it was called Flame. So maybe if Bo Nix lights it up out there, maybe there can be some sort of Burger King flame cologne kind of rekindling connection there. That would be awesome.
You could have the McNicks, or something like that to rival it.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
pretty...
with I don't know. Maybe Burger King isn't his thing. Maybe you have to go somewhere else, like Taco Bell or something.
Man, yeah, you can get all kinds of different
fire sauce scent.
There you go. Yeah, we're just finishing up some noteworthy NFL tidbits as we tie a big red bow on MHI. Before we came on air, we were talking about it with Scott just before the show started. New England Patriots traded Pro Bowl pass rusher Matthew Judon to the Atlanta Falcons for a 3rd-round pick. Tom, quickly, do you think the Broncos were in trade conversations with New England? They need pass rushing help. I like to think that they were, but for a 3rd-round pick, we couldn't land a Matthew Judon. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I hope that they would, because we've been talking about the need for edge rushing in Broncos country. I mean, it doesn't sound like they were, but they should have been for a 3rd-round pick. Now he's an older guy, obviously. They got to give him a new contract. Maybe that was just like, you know what? We're a young team. We're building. We're going to go to the draft next year and hopefully find ourselves an edge rusher. So maybe they were just out on it. But the Broncos need edge rushing capabilities if they want to make some noise this season. And that has to come from in-house. Like, they have to make that step up. Like I've been talking about, Benito or somebody has to step up. But man, for a 3rd-round draft choice, that's a pretty good talent. It's kind of hard to pass up on, but I can understand why they did.
Yeah, and if you're interested in hearing more about Matthew Judon and the Atlanta Falcons, head on over to @ScoutKennedy over on X. I know Scott and Nick have some cool things cooking up for the 2024 season as well. So a couple other tidbits. Former Broncos safety and team captain Justin Simmons continues his NFC South tour. New Orleans Saints last week, Atlanta Falcons, speak of the devil, few days ago, still remains available. When do you anticipate Justin Simmons finding a home?
I thought he was going to find one already. It's a surprise to me that he's still out there hanging around. I mean, I get that you waited, but training camp's done. What's the deal? What's going on with signing someone of his talent? It seems strange to me.
Completely agree. It's I don't know what's going on there. I mean, it's he'll land and he'll be all right. I'm not worried about him, but it's curious to say the least. Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Thanks, Phil. Really appreciate your support, man. Over on Facebook, you've been super active, as has the rest of Broncos country tonight over on Facebook. With all this talk about Bo Nix, what do you consider a successful season for the young man?
Well, stats wise, I mean, people have been putting out some pretty incredible numbers for a rookie quarterback, but stats for me, I mean, if he can have a 23 touchdown to 12 interception season and manufacture some wins because of his play, that's a successful season. I mean, it doesn't have to be these huge numbers. It doesn't have to be, wow, oh my gosh, this is one of the best rookie seasons I've ever seen. You have to be able to see some semblance of good play and improvement throughout the season. And that's what you're looking for. And, not bad decision-making. That's why I said 12 interceptions is, that's not bad decision-making for a rookie quarterback. He's not going to throw 4 interceptions. I mean, it would be incredible if he did, but rookies tend to make mistakes. But I don't want to see a ton of mistakes where you're like shaking your head every day going, I cannot believe he threw that ball.
You're not going to see a lot of sacks because he's getting rid of the ball so quickly because he's prepared. Now, it was against Indianapolis. It was against the starters there. You're going to see better defenses too, and I know Indy held some guys out as well. To your point, Tom, you are going to see some of these turnovers, and they're not always going to be the quarterback's fault. Blank happens, and I'm cleaning it up for podcasting, but we all know it. It happened in Indy last week, right? Ask Jarrett. These things, it's the NFL. It's crazy. Weirder things have happened. I like how you lean into the statistical side on what success looks like for Bo. For me, I'm going to look at it as a team side. How about a winning record for the Denver Broncos? That'd be nice. Something that hasn't happened in 7 or 8 years now. Snap the losing streak to the Las Vegas Raiders. That would be great. We we, being the Denver Broncos, have never beaten the Las Vegas Raiders. Absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. And this is a really tall ask. Speaking of the Raiders, can we split the AFC West? that would be nice. I mean,
Yeah.
like try to get a win on every single team in the AFC West. That would be huge for not only Sean Payton, but for Bo Nix and for that locker room. Michael Ronquillo coming in. Great show tonight. Tom, Luke, and Scott on MHI. Go Broncos. Really appreciate you, Mike. And Michael, let us know what a successful season for Bo Nix looks like. Maybe it's getting that thing signed by your first round rookie QB and having a new autograph. I know it's cool to, a lot of the collectors, and I'm a comic book collector and stuff like that, right? But you get the Bo Nix rookie card. I mean, Bo Nix turns into something. That'd be pretty cool, right? Kind of see some of that success down the line. E-Love coming in here, 28 tutties, 7 interceptions. Lots of yards, 3,800 yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. Let's not forget about Bo Nix's wheels, man. The guy can run. He's smart when he needs to be, but he's quick. And I think Broncos country certainly enjoyed seeing something different. I would encourage everybody, stay locked on to Mile High Huddle, milehighhuddle.com, at Mile High Huddle on X. Follow Tom at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Please reach out to at Scout Kennedy as well. Friday, joint practices, Broncos-Packers. Sunday, you've got preseason game number 2. The Packers are in town and will square off against Denver. Bo Nix will make his Denver debut, if you will. Should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I want to know what decision Sean Payton makes. Is he going to keep playing this? Well, I don't know. If he starts Bo Nix, he's the guy, and there he can't keep fooling around with Stidham and blah blah blah. So
yeah,
I'm interested to see how it goes. I think they'll put him in. He'll play a considerable amount with the starters. You get Stidham, then you get Zach Wilson. I'm still looking forward to see. I was disappointed with Lucas Kroll when he got he got injured. I really wanted to see, he was doing really well. And I wanted to see him kind of live up to the hype, so to speak, this offseason. And he was kind of on his way and got hurt. So hopefully he can play this next game. I don't know if he can, but it would be cool to see that. I'd also like to see a little bit more from JL Skinner out there. I want to see if he has the game to live up to the release out of the blue of Caden Stearns.
Don't put that on JL Skinner. But no, I hear you, man. You got to see more from these young guys. Can you build off of it, or was that just a one-hit wonder out there in Indy? I mean, can you do it here in front of your hometown? You should be able to. You're at the barn, right? You got to protect this house, or whatever Under Armour has to say. Real quick on the way out, happy birthday, Broncos country. On this day in 1959, the Denver Broncos became an official AFL franchise. They played their first season, Tom, as you well know, in 1960, and joined the NFL as part of the 1970 AFL-NFL merger. Broncos country, happy birthday. This is the way.
This is the way.